She was too beautiful for her own good. That's what people in our village always said about my cousin, Amarachi. From the moment she turned 18, her skin shone like she carried the sun inside her. Her smile could melt even the angriest heart, and her eyes. They looked like they had secrets no one else could understand. But let me tell you, beauty is not always a blessing. Sometimes, it is bait. It all began one hot evening when Amarachi returned from the city. She had gone to Onitsha main market with her elder sister to buy fabrics. But she didn't come back alone, she returned carrying whispers. Everybody in the compound gathered outside to see her face because it didn't look normal anymore. Her skin was glowing in a strange way, like glass, too smooth, too shiny, too perfect. It was the kind of glow that made you stop talking mid-sentence. "Amora, what happened to your face?" I asked, my voice shaking a little. She only smiled, lifting her chin proudly. "Chioma, I found somebody. A makeup woman in the city. Her name is Madam Nnena. She uses something called divine dust. The moment she touched my face, my life changed." I didn't like the sound of that. Divine dust. Makeup that could change someone's life. It didn't sit well with me. That very night, Amarachi uploaded a picture on her Facebook page. By morning, she had gained 15,000 followers. Boys started sending her money she didn't ask for. A big boutique in Enugu even reposted her photo and offered her free clothes. But when I looked into her eyes, I noticed something. The glow was there, yes, but the Amarachi I knew was fading. It was as if the makeup had stolen part of her laughter. Days passed, and things only got stranger. Amarachi no longer greeted people the way she used to. She was always distracted, always checking her phone. And whenever she stood near a mirror, I noticed something terrifying. Her reflection looked slower than her body, like it didn't want to follow her movements. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. But then, one night, as we were preparing for a wedding in the village, I saw it clearly. Amarachi was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting her head tie, but in the reflection, her eyes were not hers. They were hollow, empty, like a shadow had taken her place. "Amora!" I screamed. She turned to me, confused. "What is it, Chioma?" I pointed at the mirror with trembling hands. Your eyes." She frowned and touched her face. "My eyes. What's wrong with my eyes?" But when I looked back at the mirror, everything was normal again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept asking myself, what did Madam Nnena really put on Amarachi's face? And why did it feel like the glow wasn't hers anymore? I didn't know it yet, but that was the beginning of a battle. A battle not against flesh and blood, but against people who steal destinies and bury them under powder and lipstick. The next morning, Amarachi woke up earlier than everyone else. She wore her wrapper neatly, tied her gele with precision, and applied just a touch of powder on her face. But even without the powder, the strange glow was still there. When she stepped out of the house, women at the stream paused. They stared at her with wide eyes, and I heard one of them whisper, "This girl is carrying something that is not ordinary." I followed her closely. Something in my chest told me I couldn't leave her alone. She was no longer just Amarachi, my cousin. She was becoming something, or someone, else. Later that day, she confessed to me. "Chioma," she said in a low voice, "the woman who painted my face, her name is Madam Nnena. She told me that if I return to her, I will not only glow, but my life will change forever. She said I will never lack money, men will chase me, and my enemies will bow at my feet." Her words sent cold chills through my body. I remembered how our grandmother always warned us, never take beauty that is not yours, because some gifts are traps. "Amora, please don't go back there," I begged. But Amarachi smiled and shook her head. "Chioma, you don't understand. For the first time, I feel like the whole world is watching me. This is my chance. That evening, we received a visitor, a slim woman dressed in black arrow and a red scarf. She came quietly, almost like the wind carried her to our compound. She didn't greet anyone. She only asked, "Where is Amarachi?" When Amara stepped forward, the woman's eyes lit up like she had found a treasure. "Yes, yes," she whispered. "You are chosen. Madam Nnena wants you again." I shivered. Who sends a stranger to fetch a young girl like she is a goat for the market? But Amarachi's face broke into a smile. She looked flattered. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned on my mat. Questions filled my head. Who was Madam Nnena really? Why did Amarachi's glow look borrowed? And why did I feel like she was slowly disappearing from us? The more I thought about it, the more I knew something was terribly wrong. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you this. If someone you love was being lured into something dark, and you were the only one who could see the danger, what would you do? Would you stay quiet, or would you fight to save them? My friend, before I reveal the shocking moment that followed, pause here and subscribe. Because this story will open your eyes, and you don't want to miss what happens next. The following morning, Amarachi disappeared. Nobody knew when she left, or how. Her mother thought she was at the stream. Her father thought she had gone to visit a friend. But I knew the truth, she had followed the woman in the red scarf. And as I sat under the mango tree waiting, my heart began to race. I felt it deep inside me, Amarachi was not coming back the same. When Amarachi did not return by nightfall, her mother started to panic. She went from house to house, asking the neighbors, "Have you seen my daughter? Did Amara pass this way?" Nobody had seen her. Not even the boys who usually played AO under the big udala tree. I knew in my heart that she had gone back to Madam Nnena. The thought alone made my stomach twist. The next morning, I decided to follow her trail. I remembered the woman in the red scarf mentioned something about a compound near Oweroni market. So I put on my plain wrapper, tied a small scarf on my head, and set out. The market was noisy, full of traders shouting prices of yam, pepper, and dry fish. But when I asked about Madam Nnena, people grew quiet. One woman selling beans looked around before whispering, "Stop asking. That woman is not ordinary. Please," I begged. My cousin went there. The woman's eyes softened, but her voice dropped even lower. "If your cousin has entered that compound, pray for her soul. Many girls go in there, shining like stars, but when they come back, they are never the same again." Her words shook me to my bones. Still, I couldn't give up. I walked past the market until I found the street the woman described. At the very end stood a large compound with high walls. The gate was painted black, and on it was drawn the image of a mirror with two crossed brushes. I froze. Even from the gate, I could feel it, an air too heavy, too quiet, too strange for a normal house. I hid behind a tree and waited. After some time, I saw a young girl step out. Her skin was glowing like polished bronze, her lips glossy like oil. She looked richer than anyone I had ever seen. But as she walked, nobody greeted her. Nobody even turned their head. It was like she was invisible. I gasped. The woman at the market was right. Then I heard a sound. The gate creaked, and a tall man with empty eyes stepped out. He wore a long black kaftan and carried a wooden staff. He stood at the gate as if he could see through the tree where I was hiding. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I pressed my back against the tree, praying silently. If he caught me, I didn't know what would happen. After what felt like forever, he turned and went back inside. The gate closed with a heavy thud. I exhaled slowly. My hands were shaking, but one thing was clear, Amarachi was inside that compound, and if I didn't act fast, I might lose her forever. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the black compound. Amarachi was in there, I was sure of it. But how could I get her out? The walls were too high, the gate too heavy, and the man with the wooden staff too frightening. I couldn't tell the elders. They would call me a child imagining stories. So I decided to wait. Maybe if I stayed near the market, I would see someone who had been inside before. The next evening, I returned. The market was closing, and the sun was melting into the horizon. I saw a girl about my age standing alone by the palm oil stall. She looked tired, her wrapper loose on her body. I recognized her face immediately. She was Obianuju, one of the brightest dancers in our village festivals. But now, her eyes were dim like a candle about to die. Obianuju, I called gently. She turned slowly. Chioma. Her voice was weak. I stepped closer. You went inside, didn't you? Madam Nnena's compound. Her lips trembled. She nodded. Then tears filled her eyes. They said it was makeup, only makeup. But the moment she touched my face, something left me. I still look pretty, yes, but inside, I am empty. I shivered. What do you mean empty? She looked around quickly, making sure nobody was listening. Then she whispered, it is not just beauty they take. They take the star that God placed in you. After that, you can still walk, you can still talk, but you are no longer seen. No longer chosen. Her words burned into my chest. This was the same thing I saw with Amarachi. Obianuju, please, tell me how to stop it. How can I save my cousin? But before she could answer, the sound of a bell echoed from the black compound. Obianuju's face went pale. I must go, she whispered. They are calling. She turned and hurried down the street, her footsteps fast, her wrapper flying behind her. I stood frozen. The bell continued to ring, sharp and haunting, until the night swallowed it. That night, as I lay on my mat, I couldn't close my eyes. I remembered Obianuju's tears, her trembling voice, her warning. They take your star. The words played in my mind like a drum. I sat up and made a decision. If I wanted to save Amarachi, I had to go inside that compound myself. Not as a client, but as a spy. I didn't know what I would find inside, or if I would even come out again. But one thing was sure, Amarachi's destiny was not for sale. And if Madam Nnena thought she could take it, then she would have to face me too. The next morning, I prepared myself. I tied a plain wrapper, covered my head with a scarf, and carried a small calabash filled with palm oil. If anyone asked, I would say I was selling oil near the compound. But in truth, I had only one mission, to enter and see what Madam Nnena was hiding. When I reached the street, my heart began to beat fast. The black gate stood tall like the mouth of a monster. I whispered a short prayer and walked closer. As I approached, the same tall man with empty eyes appeared. He looked at me without blinking. Who are you looking for? He asked in a voice as dry as harmattan wind. I swallowed hard. I came to see Madam Nnena. I want her to touch my face. His lips curled into a strange smile. Slowly, he pushed the gate open. The sound of its hinges creaked like crying spirits. Inside, the compound was not like any house I had ever seen. The ground was covered in fine white sand, and on the walls were painted faces of beautiful women, some smiling, some crying, some with hollow eyes. My chest tightened. Were these the faces of the girls she had already touched? Wait here, the man said, pointing to a wooden bench under a mango tree. Then he disappeared into the main building. I sat down, pretending to be calm, but inside, my hands were shaking. I scanned the compound quickly. There was a small shrine in one corner, decorated with red cloths. Clay pots sat around it, each filled with ashes. Suddenly, I heard footsteps. A group of young women walked past me. Their skin glowed like gold, their eyes painted with heavy kohl, their wrappers bright and expensive. but their faces were empty, no smiles, no laughter, no life. They moved like puppets, as if someone else was controlling their steps. Then, from inside the house, I heard a voice. Smooth. Powerful. Calling my name. Chioma. I froze. How did she know my name? The door opened slowly, and there she was, Madam Nnena. She wore a long gown of bright red lace, her gaily tall and perfect, her face painted but ageless. She didn't look like someone who had lived many years. She looked like someone who had stolen youth itself. She smiled at me, but her eyes were sharp like knives. Welcome, Chioma, she said softly. I have been expecting you. My throat went dry. I hadn't told anyone I was coming. How did she already know? I wanted to stand and run, but my legs refused to move. My heart pounded as she stretched out her hand. Come inside, she said. Let me give you the glow that never fades. My legs trembled as Madam Nnena stretched her hand toward me. I didn't want to follow her, but something in her voice was like a rope pulling me forward. Inside, the air was heavy. It smelled of strong perfume mixed with smoke. The walls were painted red, and candles burned everywhere, their flames bending as if the wind was inside the house. She led me into a wide room. At first, I thought it was empty. Then I looked again, and my chest grew tight. The whole room was filled with mirrors. Tall mirrors, small mirrors, round ones, cracked ones. But none of them showed my reflection. Only hers. In every mirror, Madam Nnena's face appeared, smiling, glowing, ageless. Her eyes followed me from every corner, like the walls themselves were watching me. Do you know why I'm special, Chioma? She asked, her voice soft but sharp. I shook my head slowly. Because I do not steal beauty. Beauty fades. I take something higher. I take what the world cannot buy, destiny. Her words made my stomach twist. She stepped closer, her gaily brushing the candles. All these girls you see outside, they gave me their star. In exchange, they shine on the surface. But inside, I keep their true light. That is why I never grow old. I wanted to scream, but my voice was trapped in my throat. Then she clapped her hands, and suddenly, one of the mirrors changed. I gasped, it was Amarachi. She was inside the mirror, her eyes dull, her body weak, like she was trapped behind the glass. Amara! I cried, rushing to the mirror. But her lips only moved slowly, no sound came out. Tears ran down my cheeks. Madam Nnena laughed gently. She belongs to me now. Unless you want to trade yourself for her. I turned and looked at her. Trade, myself. She nodded. Give me your star, and she will walk free. My heart pounded. My star, the thing that made me, me. Before I could answer, the candles flickered, and the mirrors began to crack softly, like spider webs spreading across glass. Madam Nnena's smile faded. She turned quickly, her eyes dark. No, she hissed. This one star is strong. Too strong. She stepped back, watching me with suspicion. Then she whispered, you are not here by accident. Someone sent you. But who? The room grew colder. The mirrors rattled. Amarachi's hand pressed weakly against the glass. I clenched my fist. I didn't know how, but I swore I would not leave without her. Madam Nnena's eyes stayed fixed on me as the mirrors shook. Her smile was gone now, replaced with a tight frown. You carry something unusual, she muttered. Your star is restless. It is not easily taken. She waved her hand, and the mirror stopped cracking. Then she snapped her fingers. From the corner of the room, two women in bright wrappers walked in. Their eyes were blank, their steps slow, like dolls being controlled. Each of them carried a clay pot covered with red cloth. They placed the pots on the floor and knelt down, waiting. "Do you know what these are?" Madam Nnena asked, pointing at the pots. I shook my head, though my body was trembling. She smiled again, a cold smile. "These pots hold the voices of girls who gave me their stars. Each time I need strength, I open one, and their whispers fill me. That is why I shine forever." She clapped her hands, and one of the women removed the cloth from a pot. Immediately, soft whispers filled the room. Voices of girls, crying, begging, calling names. My body went cold. I could hear Obianuju's voice among them, faint but clear. "Please, give it back, give it back." I covered my ears, but the sound sank deep into my bones. Amarachi's reflection shook inside the mirror, her palm pressed harder against the glass, as if she wanted to break free. "Do you see?" Madam Nnena said, her voice smooth. "They belong to me. And soon, you will too." But then something happened she did not expect. As I stood there, clutching my scarf, one of the clay pots began to tremble. It wasn't the one she had opened, it was another one, at the far end of the room. The whispers inside grew louder, almost like a shout. Madam Nnena turned quickly, her eyes wide. "No," she snapped. "Not that one." The pot shook harder, and suddenly, it cracked. A stream of cold air rushed out, swirling around the room like a whirlwind. The mirrors rattled again, and the candles flickered wildly. For the first time, I saw fear in Madam Nnena's face. I looked at her sharply. "So you can be broken?" She glared at me, her eyes burning with anger. "Child, you do not know what you are playing with. Leave now, before your star burns out." But I shook my head. "I am not leaving without Amarachi." The cracked pot rolled on the ground, spilling ashes across the white floor. The whispers grew louder, like a chorus of voices crying for freedom. Madam Nnena raised her hand to silence them, but the air was heavy with something she could not control. And for the first time, I felt hope. The room grew colder as the cracked clay pot rolled across the white floor. The voices inside it grew louder, no longer whispers, but cries of freedom. Madam Nnena's belly tilted slightly as she turned sharply toward the pot, her perfect face hardening. "Silence," she shouted, lifting her hand. But the voices did not stop. They rose higher, echoing from mirror to mirror. For the first time, I saw her hand tremble. I stepped closer to the broken pot, my heart racing. The ashes inside glowed faintly, like embers from a fire that refused to die. When I knelt to touch it, the air around me grew warm, and one of the voices called my name. "Chioma." I gasped. It was Amarachi's voice. Not the weak voice trapped inside the mirror, but her true voice, strong, alive, calling from inside the ashes. Madam Nnena's eyes widened. She lunged forward, grabbing my wrist before I could touch the pot. Her grip was cold, stronger than iron. "You don't know what you're doing," she hissed. "That pot holds more than your cousin's voice. If you open it fully, you will release what even I cannot control." I stared into her sharp eyes. "Then maybe that's what you fear." Her grip tightened, but I pulled my hand free. The moment I touched the ashes, a shock ran through my body. My vision blurred, and suddenly, I wasn't in the room anymore. I was standing in a wide field under a dark sky. All around me were girls, hundreds of them, standing silently, their faces glowing faintly. Some I recognized from our village, others I had never seen. Their eyes were tired, but when they saw me, hope lit up in them. One of them stepped forward. It was Obianuju. "Chioma," she whispered. "You carry a star that fights. You must break the pot. Only then will we be free." Before I could answer, the vision faded, and I was back in the mirror room. Madam Nnena was staring at me, her face pale, her breathing heavy. For the first time, she looked human. "You went too far," she said slowly. The star in you is not ordinary. It listens to voices it should not hear. Behind her, the other pots began to tremble one by one. The red cloths shifted as the whispers grew louder, like drums beating against the walls. I stood up straight, my fear melting into courage. Maybe it's time the world hears them too. Her eyes darkened, and she raised both hands, the candles flaring higher. The mirror shook violently, Amarachi's reflection pounding desperately against the glass. The battle for her destiny had only just begun. The room thundered with the sound of voices. The clay pots trembled on the floor, their red cloths flying off one by one. The whispers turned into cries, the cries into shouts, until it felt like the whole house was shaking. Madam Nnena raised her hands higher, her gaily tilting, her face burning with anger. "Silence," she roared. But the voices refused. They filled every corner of the mirror room, calling out names, calling out destiny stolen, calling for freedom. I remembered what Obianuju had told me in the vision: break the pots. With trembling hands, I grabbed the wooden staff lying near the shrine. My heart was pounding, but my spirit was strong. I swung the staff down hard on the nearest clay pot. Crack! The pot shattered into pieces, and a stream of light burst out, circling the room like fireflies. The mirror beside me cracked wide open, and one of the trapped girls inside stumbled out, gasping for breath. Madam Nnena screamed, her hands shaking. "Stop! You don't know what you are releasing." But I didn't stop. One by one, I struck the pots. Each time, light filled the room, and another girl stepped free. Their dull eyes brightened, their voices joined in a chorus of freedom. Finally, I turned to the mirror where Amarachi was trapped. Her palm pressed desperately against the glass. With all my strength, I lifted the staff and smashed it against the mirror. Shatter! Amarachi fell forward into my arms, weak but alive. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I hugged her tightly. "You're free, Amara. You're free." The ground shook beneath us. Madam Nnena stumbled back, her face cracking, not with makeup, but like broken porcelain. Her glow faded, her skin wrinkled, her beauty melting into age she had been hiding for years. "You foolish child," she croaked. "Do you think the world will thank you? They don't want truth. They want beauty. They will always choose the glow." I stood tall, holding Amarachi. "Maybe. But I choose destiny. And destiny is stronger than your powder." The mirrors collapsed, the candles blew out, and Madam Nnena fell to her knees, her power gone. The voices of the freed girls rose higher, filling the night sky like a song of victory. By the time the dust cleared, the black compound was empty. The walls had crumbled, the gate lay broken, and Madam Nnena was gone. Amarachi held my hand, her face tired but real, her glow fading into the natural shine God had given her. She smiled faintly. "Chioma, you saved me." I shook my head. "No. Your star saved itself. Some stars cannot be stolen." We walked home slowly, side by side, with the dawn breaking over the village. This story reminds us that not every glow is from God. Some glows are traps, and some beauty comes with a heavy price. Protect your essence, protect your star, and never let anyone take what God has placed in you. Thank you for watching this story. If it touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear this warning. And please subscribe to this channel, because together, we can keep telling stories that save, heal, and open eyes. Remain blessed, and see you in the next one.